We're good. All right, cool. Hey, everybody. Welcome to November 17th's MakerDAO community call. My name is David Utrobin. I work at the Maker Foundation and have been a long-time MakerDAO community member, just generally speaking. I get the awesome chance to host these every Tuesday. And if you're new to the call, we kind of do two things with it. We either go through weekly updates, what's happening in the MakerDAO universe, everything from current events and governance, interesting partnerships, interesting protocols and different tech being built around MakerDAO. We kind of try to, bring to light whatever might be happening, because God knows there is a lot of stuff happening around Maker week in and week out, and so we hope to catch you up using this call. And then the second thing we do every once in a while, we like to have a special guest with a special segment that kind of focuses on a specific thing, and that's what we're going to be doing this week. So for the first half hour of the call, I actually have Christopher Mooney here. Chris is are you the elected domain facilitator of the smart contracts domain team?
I think just a mandated actor like the others.
Got it. So
but,
Chris is
so Chris is sort of taking the lead there, but yeah.
Chris is the one. He's been taking the lead. You've been giving the governance updates on the Thursday calls. So Chris is a member of the smart contracts domain team, and he has been spearheading the DSChief 1.2 upgrade, like all the communications around it and all that good stuff. So let me actually post that forum thread in the chat.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that'll be helpful.
Yeah, so people can follow along, and then I'm happy to give it over to you, Chris, and to kind of let you do like a brief overview, and then open it up to anybody who's on the call that might have questions about it. I definitely have like a few questions that I prepared beforehand, but I'll leave those for after the general overview.
All right, so I'm going to try and present my screen. Let me know if you guys can see it.
Yeah, I'm going to hide my face, and yeah, I could see it.
Okay, great. I'll get rid of this little guy down here. So we're going to talk about the DSChief 1.2 upgrade today. I just want to give a little background, maybe some next steps, talk about the timeline, and then if I can do that all within, 10 or 15 minutes, I'm hoping that if anyone's got questions, they can ask questions after. So for a little bit of background, so the October 23rd proposal included a change that would have whitelisted B protocol in the OSMs, and they need this so that they can sort of top up vaults and also do their internal unwinding process. So this was important to them. It also had the surplus buffer from 2 million to 4 million increase. But there was an additional sort of time constraint on this proposal. On the following Monday, we had a monthly executive that was coming out around noon. And so right as we started to approach noon, B protocol decided to use a flash loan to sort of push this proposal over the limit. I'm guessing that this proposal likely would not have passed if they had not used a flash loan, simply because of the time constraints, but not because Maker holders didn't want it. I think it just wasn't enough time over the weekend to sort of garner enough MKR to push this thing over. So the Maker team detected the flash loan, and in essence, B protocol borrowed WETH from DYDX. I think that was about a 20 million flash loan, around 50,000 Ethereum. They deposited that into Aave, and then they borrowed 7 million in MKR, which is around 13,000 MKR, which was enough that they could use that to sort of get the sort of delta that they needed to get to the executive over the line to make it the hat. So they locked that in the chief contract. They voted, lifted it to the hat, and then they actually pulled it out and returned the flash loans. And I think I can't remember if the schedule was called in that transaction or if it was our keeper that lifted it. But either way, it was lifted thereafter. So after this occurred, there was some discussion in the forums about whether or not this was a bad action on B protocol's part. And I think in the end, it was decided that there should be no real consequences for B protocol. But it was also decided that this sort of violates the mechanism design of MKR holders having skin in the game. That is, a flash loan, doesn't, someone using a flash loan doesn't have the sort of like economic investment that we expect from the mechanism design of how MKR holders are supposed to vote. And so we decided that in order to sort of better capture this or to ensure it, that we would update the chief to version 1.2 that would effectively remove flash loan capabilities from being used in the chief. And just to give like an even further background, DSChief was written a long time ago. Flash loans aren't even a year old yet. So this has always sort of existed as a capability. I think the first flash loans we saw were around February 2020. So the chief was sort of, probably would have been designed to prevent this from the beginning, but wasn't designed to prevent this because it wasn't, or wasn't a reality when it was designed. What I will also say is that we have planned this mitigation, actually I should just say this, prevention in DSS Gov. So the next version of governance that we've been discussing and designing has flash loan prevention. So while we wait for this Chief 1.2 upgrade, we had an interim sort of preventative measure that was added. And actually, I'll talk a little bit more about why exactly these measures were taken in the next slide. But we basically increased the governance delay from 12 to 72 hours. And we removed the instant access capabilities to freeze the oracles and disable or enable liquidations. So the reason we did that, this is a graph of basically the hat. And like, this is how much MKR is on the hat. And then the red line is how much MKR would be on, say, Aave, Balancer, and Uniswap. So this gives us a good idea of how much market liquidity is available for flash loans. Now, this is just like 3 particular things. It's actually like even a little bit worse than this. We graph these internally. But right around, I guess it was the 23rd, so 24th, 25th, 26th, somewhere right around this line. This is obviously us calling to MKR holders that they need to go and secure the hat. But right around here, there was a brief moment where our alerts went off and let us know that basically the MKR on the hat had dipped below the amount of MKR that was available in the open market. And so that's an extremely bad situation. It means that anyone could have just used a flash loan to not just approve a sort of an executive that had already been, processed through the governance process, but they could have written one that could have done any number of malicious actions, and it would have given us about 12 hours to clean it up. What's more, those sort of instant access modules that were on the outside to freeze the oracles and the ones to enable and disable liquidations could have been leveraged to do just that. So, you can imagine someone trying to vandalize the oracles or seeing some sort of economic benefit from freezing the oracles, and those that would, sort of depend on those oracles would have some economic fallout. But you could also imagine, I think in the worst case, USDCA being disabled. So I'm sorry, USDCA's currently liquidations are disabled for it, but someone could have enabled those liquidations and gotten a really good deal on USDCA. So we would have liquidated probably 15 million in the first box chunk, and then who knows what that would have gone for. It could have been really bad losses. So we disabled both of those things. So now we've got this sort of proposal for DSChief 1.2. The forums link is dropped in the side chat, so you guys can check that out. It's a slightly more detailed version of this talk, but the general prevention, the sort of TLDR, is that we have 2 functions in the chief, a lock and a free, and in order to accomplish a flash loan and return the flash loan, you need to borrow the flash loan, you need to lock that MKR in the chief, you need to vote. You need the lift to bring it up to the hat. You probably want to schedule whatever it is at that point. And then you would call free at the end of it and return your flash loan. So what we prevented was basically lock and free from being called in the same block, which disables flash loans from happening in the same block, and therefore disables flash loans being used in governance. So again, check out the forums post. If you just go to forum.makerdao, you can search for DSChief 1.2 or flash loan protection something. You'll find that post there. So the migration at a high level. So on the 27th of November, we plan to put up an executive that will give the new chief permissions on the system, and will strip the old chief of permission. So that is the sort of parlance there is the authority, right? So it removes the authority from the old chief and gives the authority to the new chief, actually in the opposite order. So if that proposal ends up passing, we then have to wait the sort of 72 hours. And while we're waiting that 72 hours, we have to make sure that the chief is, that the old chief is secure. So MKR has to stay on the hat over there and make sure it's if it starts to drop, basically someone could go in and still execute malicious actions over there. And then once the new chief gains its authority after that 72 hours, we withdraw from the old one and we'll deposit into the new chief. And we're going to have to vote on what right now is address 0, so proposal 0. And so hard coded in the code right now, maybe we'll change this, but it's about 100,000 MKR. So we have to get 100,000 MKR in the new chief in order to enable the new chief. If we can't hit the 100K MKR mark, then I guess the joke is that MKR protocol becomes governance minimized. But
that's only for the first vote, right? Like
that's
anything
only
beyond
for the
that, yeah, got it.
Yeah, it's only for the first vote, and it probably doesn't need to be a full 100. Like we could probably do it with 80. You could see that that's above the sort of amount of MKR that's available on the market. So but 100, we were able to garner 100 not that long ago to protect the hat. We could probably get there again. And then for users, what this is going to look like is in the voting portal. So everything will happen through the voting portal. So we decided we're not going to use the sort of migrate site. So through our voting portal, you'll be able to withdraw your MKR from the old system, and you'll be able to deposit into the new system. And all of that should sort of handle the sort of deposit and the voting on this address 0 for you. And then once it's active, then we're just on a new chief, but with flash loan prevention capabilities, we can probably reduce that 72-hour governance delay, which is like, 2 or 3 weeks, it seems like in crypto time. And we can re-enable the modules to freeze the OSMs, and we can re-enable the liquidation modules. So a more detailed timeline. So, we complete code review around the 13th. Week of the 16th, we're going to deploy the new DSChief. And then on the 27th, this is where we deploy the executive that will do all this work. We have to vote on it, and then there's going to be some period of time both for voting, and then finally when the proposal passes, we've got this 72-hour delay. And once the old authority is stripped from the old chief and the new authority is given to the new chief, we then need to begin to sort of vote on this address 0 to activate it. So we withdraw from the old chief, we deposit into the new chief, and then we vote on this 0 address proposal in order to make it reach the threshold to activate the chief. And yeah, and then once that's done, we're good. So DSChief 1.2 and beyond. So this would be going to DSSGov in Q1 2021. So we're going to migrate to the DSChief 1.2. And that also, because we do that now, we were really worried when we looked at a bunch of the other mitigating steps that we wouldn't be able to, that there could be some other like emergency that would yank our focus and attention from DSS Gov back onto DSChief. So we think that this will get us all the way to being able to work on DSS Gov. So once DSChief 1.2 is out, everyone should sort of refocus their efforts on thinking about what they want in DSS Gov, because we're right in the sort of final design phases of that. And if you have feedback or you want to see a feature implemented, then you should probably speak up now. And I think that is it. So yeah, that's all for the presentation. I'll see if I can let's see. Gotta get used to this interface somehow. So actually, you can take it away from me, right, David?
Yeah, I think I could just close it out, and then I could
and then
toggle our videos. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So so the few so I guess before I ask my questions, I'll remind the chat, like anybody, if you have questions as an MKR holder or just as a general, a general viewer, feel free to put it in the chat. So Frank is asking, and it's 2 ETH transactions, correct? AKA 2 gas transactions.
For which part?
I imagine freeing your MKR from the voting contract can be done in one transaction, and then locking it.
Yeah.
If you're doing the hot cold wallet like synced lock, that might still require 2 transactions.
So you're going to have to lock in the new DSChief. We don't have a proxy in place for anything right now, so I think it'll be a transaction to remove from the old one, a transaction to lock into the new one, and then you'll probably have a third transaction to vote on the 0 proposal to activate the new chief.
Right.
Yeah, so that would be 3 total in order to deal with this. But the UI should hopefully walk you through, all of that, make it extremely easy to use. Yeah.
Nice. So one of the questions I had is, will the migration, which is slated for somewhere between the 27th of November through to like the 4th of December, will this migration cause us to miss any important executive votes or governance polls?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think right now we're going to operate that December 4th executive will go off without a hitch. But if not, what we'll do is we'll just wait, and then whatever we had bundled for that 4th, we'll roll it over into the next week.
Got it.
There's a really good chance we don't hit the 4th, just because the week of the executive is Thanksgiving week. I think it's in the US, It's Black Friday. So people just may not be around to vote, and maybe we don't see the votes coming in for this until Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday the next week. And if that happens, the 72-hour delay is going to cause us to miss that that 4th deadline. So,
what executive is happening on the 4th? It's not part of the monthly MIPS governance cycle, right? Because I think the December cycle is being canceled because of the recent calendar exceptions MIP that was passed.
Yeah, so I think and I think the monthly, because we're polling for the monthly cycle right now, I think like the November 23rd. I can't exactly remember, but there'll be a monthly vote prior to all of this occurring. And then so for the 4th, I'm sure what it would be is just some collateral onboarding. So I'm guessing it would be either the LP tokens or Aave, Uni, something like that.
It might also be like the dust parameter adjustment if that doesn't make it in before the 27th.
It could, if that dust parameter gets adjusted. I don't know where the vote is on it.
Yeah, right now it's in the governance poll. So if the governance poll is slated to end on Thursday in a couple of days, then yeah, I guess it's up to Long whether he's putting it in an executive vote for Monday the 23rd, or because the 27th would already be the 1.2 DSChief upgrade. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm also like secretly trying to catch myself up on this.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah.
All right, cool.
Ask whatever questions you would need to.
So I know that like this was seen as urgent enough that that it was done, that there was no real like signal request or anything around this. It was kind of seen as like very high priority because of the amount of MKR that's available for flash loans in the ecosystem, right?
Yeah, and I don't know if I would say what B protocol did is the thing that gave the urgency. It was, I mean, quite literally 24 hours later, and
Yeah.
and that might have been because we had two executives, and then we were, it just was this like perfect moment where the hat wasn't secured by enough MKR. But it's the moment that happened about 24 hours after it where we saw the amount of MKR in the market went over the amount of MKR in the hat.
Yeah, that's super, super dangerous.
Yeah, extremely.
So you did mention a little bit about how this negatively impacted the timeline of certain like things in the smart contracts domain teams, like workload, or how would I say it, roadmap. Uh,
Yeah.
so if you could put a number, like how much it offset things like liquidations 2.0, the DSS Gov redesign, uh, what number
So
would you put to that?
so we full blown paused the DSS Gov work just to deal with this.
Yeah.
Liquidations 2.0 was already in the sort of talking to auditors process, so those meetings still occurred and happened, but
Cool.
collateral onboarding got pushed back for sure. So this sort of slowed us down on executing both the collateral onboarding roadmap and there's a lot of MIPS that have gone through, like flash minting,
Yeah.
the real world asset stuff. It pushed us back on MIP 21 a little bit. So, but yeah, it made probably like 2 or 3 weeks. Not too bad, but
Yeah.
not ideal.
So Frank writes, I joined a bit late. Maybe you mentioned the reason for this, but can you explain why it's possible to forego an audit? I know on your post you mentioned it's only 18 new lines of code. Can you give us, if possible, explain it like I'm five? Just wondering because lately we have seen like 2, 3 exploits in DeFi every other day.
That's I don't know if I can I don't have that window up. Yeah, actually I do. Let's see if I kind of want to show you the code to show like
Yeah,
how
go for
simple
it.
that code is, but I gotta see if I can dig it up.
Is it also like was it already somewhat coded that way in the DSS Gov? Like
Yeah, so this is
yeah.
exactly like what we did for liquidations 1.2. We yanked features from 2.0 back into 1.2. We're yanking this feature from DSS Gov back, but it certainly has not been audited yet in DSS Gov. It's just had us look at it. So let me. I'm almost there.
Take your
All right,
time.
let's see. Let's see if I can turn that off. Find my little guy here. All right, so can you see the screen here?
Yes.
So for the most part, the crux of the fix is in this lock. We basically have this new mapping called last, and it stores the message sender. So whoever is locking this thing, it stores their block number. And then we down here in, this is actually not here. So down here, and this is free, right? So in free, we basically require that the block number, the current block number, is greater than the last message sender. And so it's a pretty straightforward fix. There's not a lot of like crazy code here or anything. We have this additional sort of live flag, but that's not too complicated either. And there's not really like the attack surface here is really small. But that's not to say that we couldn't easily have just a one line of code could cause all kinds of grief. I mean, that's what most of these exploits boil down to,
Right.
is one line of code. So the question is, do we think the risk of deploying this is going to be greater than the risk of a flash loan attack against governance? Or let's say now that we're living under this 72-hour delay and we don't have these instant access modules to freeze OSMs and liquidations. I mean, those are those are really big tools that governance has at their disposal that we don't currently have active. And so do we think like, you know, like what's more risky, not having those tools or deploying, you know, just this little amount of code? I mean, it's all about risk balancing these things, but Frank, I think your question is still pretty good. I mean, we may be able to reach out to like maybe QuantStamp or someone and see if we can get just like a really quick audit of this, but we'll have to see.
Is the DSS Gov contract upgrade gonna go through like some sort of fuller auditing process before actually being implemented?
Yeah, DSS Gov is just like Liquidations 2.0.
Yeah.
It's going to be enough of a rewrite that we'll have 3 auditors looking at DSS Gov the same way we have 3 auditors looking at Liquidations 2.0. And in fact, we have 3 auditors looking at Liquidations 2.0, and we have economic modeling by Gauntlet. So
that's fantastic.
So we've got like 4 auditors looking at Liquidations 2.0. Yeah, and so DSS Gov will enjoy the same sort of scrutiny. Yeah, so I think it might be worthwhile. Like we could have maybe even the DApp Hub guys, because this is a change to DSChief. At least it's in our repo right now, but DSChief is a DApp Hub module. So maybe they could take a look and sort of weigh in on it. But we'll see if we can get other engineers that aren't just the smart contracts engineers at the foundation to take a look prior to releasing it.
I mean, the good thing is that the code is published in the public. In that forum post, it's cited. So definitely it's open for anybody in the community. If you want to take a look at it, go dig in, you know. All right.
Okay, I seriously cannot find the thing that removes my
oh, it's like
my ability to present.
If you scroll your cursor over what you're presenting, there should be a little close video button up at the top. Like on the on the Crowdcast page.
On the Crowdcast page?
Yeah.
Oh, over what I'm presenting over here?
Yeah.
Let's see, yeah, close video.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay. I was worried that would like disconnect me entirely. All right. Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, no problem. Cool. So let me reserve the next minute or so for any additional questions. I know that you're probably going to talk a bit about this on the Thursday governance call. So if you do come up with any questions after the call, feel free to join on Thursday and ask there.
Yeah, I've got about another 30 seconds if anyone's got a question.
Yeah, and if and for the other half of the call, we're gonna pretty much go through MakerRelay and see what else is going on. But yeah, all right, cool. Doesn't look like there's any more questions. So Chris, thank you so much for coming on. This was super useful for me and hopefully useful to anybody who's watching. Yeah, man, keep killing it. MVP Mooney out here.
Yeah, thanks guys. It was my pleasure.
All right, cheers, man.
See you guys later.
All right, cool. So for the other half of the call, sorry about that. For the other half of the call, we're going to be going through MakerRelay 21. So if you click that little green button right here, it'll take you to the latest MakerRelay, or actually it'll take you to like the MakerRelay tag in the forum. And right up at the top, posted 18 hours ago, it's MakerRelay 21. And I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to do a speed round going through this thing, seeing what is going on this week at Maker. So give me just a second. You know, phone calls come at the worst time sometimes. Should mute this. All right. Cool. All right, so here we are, MakerRelay episode 21. So this is a big one. There's kind of like the one sentence overview up at the top, but we hit 1 billion DAI this week, which is super duper like milestone-ific. It's a huge number, and I think that many people in the community have been like dreaming of this day for many, many years, and it finally happened this week. So really, really huge milestone. And then there's also a monthly MIPS governance poll, which I'll cover down below, an executive vote for onboarding GUSD, and a couple of community greenlight polls. So actually, with that 1 billion DAI milestone, the Maker Foundation came out with a 0 to 1 billion DAI blog. I highly encourage you to check it out. There's a really awesome infographic about the history of MakerDAO up until today, or up until rather a few days ago when we hit the milestone. But yeah, check it out. It's short, sweet, and it's well done. All right, so let's talk a bit about votes. So there is an executive vote happening right now to onboard GUSD as a new vault type. If you're curious about basically what the parameters are, I guess I could just show you. It's going to be with a 4% stability fee, 101% liquidation ratio, 5 million debt ceiling, nothing too crazy, and then the rest is all pretty much standard across other vault types. And likewise, if you're interested in seeing the initial application, the risk evaluation, the smart contracts evaluations, or the oracles evaluation, all of them are linked here in the relay. And also, I believe they're linked in the vote. So for governance polls, we have the November MIPS bundle. It consists of 4 different MIPS and 3 different sub-proposals. Actually, so the descriptions for these MIPS are down below here, if you're interested in reading through them more carefully. We covered them in previous weeks, and so I'm not going to go into too much detail about any of them unless somebody in the chat asks. So if you want, if you're curious about a particular MIP, feel free to just ask. I'll happily dive into it a little bit. A couple of community greenlight polls. These are basically, the community of MKR voters signaling to the domain teams about whether these are worth paying attention to or how they stack compared to all the other collateral applications that are outstanding right now. There are quite a number of them. Actually, I could show you guys as well. There's something called the collateral status index. It's a really useful forum thread. Highly suggest you bookmark it if you want. But either way, check it out. There's also a new collateral prioritization sheet, which I should definitely show you guys and gals. But here you go. So there's a number of applications that still don't have domain work from the 3 different domains that work is required from. And so the Greenlight poll helps the domain teams, figure out which work to do first. And so you can check out all the statuses here on this thread. And then also here's the collateral prioritization framework, and it has a ton of different data as well. Some would argue that this is an even better thing to bookmark, although it is new and it's still being worked on. So yeah, check it out. The different sheets have different stuff in it, and they talked a bit about this sheet in depth on the Thursday governance call from a couple of weeks back, and I'm sure they're gonna go into this sheet again pretty regularly. But yeah, it's filled with really rich information, so check it out if you are interested. There's also a couple, actually 3 different more general governance polls happening right now. One is to adjust the YFI debt ceiling. So the YFI vault came out last week, and almost immediately the entire 7 million debt ceiling was consumed. So it's almost at 99% utilization right now, and the vote is basically to increase that debt ceiling a bit. There's also a vote to adjust the dust parameter. So to remind anybody who's listening what the dust parameter is, on every vault there is, I think right now it's at 100 dust, which means that it's the minimum amount of DAI you can generate. Like, you can't borrow $1, or a single DAI. You have to adhere to this minimum. And the reason for the minimum is pretty intuitive. Basically, it costs gas to liquidate vaults, and some vaults, if they don't have enough debt, basically it's not worth it for keepers to liquidate them. And so if there's enough of these instances of really small vaults that are not getting liquidated, it basically creates a lot of bad positions, undercapitalized positions on the MakerDAO balance sheet, so to speak. And so adjusting the dust parameter upwards increases the minimum that you can borrow from a given vault, and gives the protocol just a bit more security against bad positions like that. Also, it's not a hard thing for somebody with a big position to create like a ton of small positions just to avoid liquidation. Andrew wrote audio. Is my audio okay? Can you guys hear me all right? All right, cool. So yeah, that's what the dust parameter is. Adjusting it upward is probably a good idea. There's more discussion about it in the thread linked here, so feel free to explore on your own and read up on this issue, basically. The the third general governance poll that's happening this week is to lower stablecoin stability fees. This comes as a result of the stablecoin action plan votes that have been happening over the last couple of weeks. The first one, I believe, failed. The second one passed, and this is kind of the summation of it. And at the moment, let me actually see what the vote breakdown is. So most people are voting, and by most people, 8,500 MKR are voting for no change, so to keep all of these stablecoin vaults at 4%. And then the other, I guess, 6,000 or 7,000 MKR, like something like 6,500 MKR, is voting for 0, 1, or abstain. And very little MKR in 3 and 2%. So yeah, interesting how this is going to play out. There's still a day and a half, well, I guess 2 days remaining. So definitely go out and make your votes. And also relevant to the lowering stablecoin stability fees discussion is this accelerate the PSM launch stablecoin action plan. I think this is a discussion thread with a signal request attached to it. So definitely check it out. It has to do with the peg stabilization module. Sam actually created a technical implementation of this module. So it's really, really cool. And it's very useful for Maker governance, for a tool to have more control over the peg. And actually, I'm going to see if Sam or anybody would like to come on the community call, hopefully on the 1st or the 8th of December, to talk a bit more about just keeping that DAI peg in line, how the PSM works, what are the different strategies that Maker governance can use to basically use the PSM to affect DAI, and even to manage different stablecoin vaults like the USDCA vaults. There's a lot of really interesting stuff that can happen as a result of having this PSM activated. And here's the signal request if you feel like reading through that discussion and participating. All right, last week there were a couple of polls. There was one for burning borrowed attacking MKR. The result was that on the whole, people agreed that basically the community should do everything possible to burn any MKR involved in a governance attack as a result of a flash loan, even if it's not like, if you put up your MKR and it got used in a flash loan, basically people want to burn it, and probably reasonably so. 7 unique voters with around 24,000 MKR voted for this. As for the stablecoin action plan, yeah, people on the whole voted for lowering them to 0 across all of the different stablecoin types. New stablecoin vault types are created with 4% stability fees. So it would basically close out the current facilities. So like USDC-A, this would get zeroed out. What else? TUSD-A would get zeroed out. And then I think PAX-A is the only other one with significant amount of DAI generated against it. Would also be zeroed out. And whenever there'd be a new facility, it would be opened up with that same 4% fee. So, and yeah, so check that discussion out if you're interested. Happy to dig into it if anybody's curious. All right, cool. So moving on, just some updates from the MIP side. These are the different MIPs that are part of the current monthly governance poll that's happening. So there's an emergency voting system MIP that updates MIP 5. There's a DAI flash mint module that is that's happening this month. There is the debt ceiling instant access module, which is being proposed and happening this month. There's also the operational support domain team definition. It's a MIP that is outlining a really cool new domain team that Amy Jung is leading. So check that out as well. Calendar exceptions basically establishes some holidays for Maker governance. So we're not going to be having a December governance cycle this year. So just a heads up on that. There's also a sub-proposal for source cred funding. And source cred has been a really useful tool to incentivize our community to participate in a high level of quality on the Maker forums, and it's been shown to be working pretty well. So this formally requests funding from the protocol rather than the foundation. And then lastly, there was a sub-proposal for onboarding Amy Jung as the domain facilitator for this operational support domain. There's a number of different proposals in the RFC phase. Yeah, the DSS Gov, the governance contract redesign, is one of them. Chris Mooney had mentioned it earlier in the call. There's also MIP 17, which is weekly actual debt ceiling adjustments. I think this one is about the logic of the debt ceiling adjustments. There's the peg stability module, which is in the RFC phase. And then Lev actually just announced this a few days ago, but MIP 30 is for a farmable CUSDC adapter. So it allows you to use USDC that's locked in Compound, which earns the comp token, as collateral. So you don't have to use USDC straight up. You can actually use a wrapped version of it that is earning you yield in the background, which is just, it basically gives Maker users, it prevents people from losing out on the opportunity cost of having USDC, which is really, really cool. So this is nice. And if we implement this into like the USDC-A, USDC-B vault types, if that's possible, that would be also really, really cool. It would like almost automatically convert people to having some, profitable yield on their USDC. Yeah, I'm gonna read up on that and see if I can bring some better commentary next week for you all. Sub-proposals in the RFC phase. So there's some MIP 6 amendments, MIP 9 amendments. I'm not gonna get into these super deeply. One that I do want to call out is we would love some feedback about this governance communications team. It's a declaration of intent, so it's just outlining the idea behind a governance communications team. Functionally, it already produces a number of different things. And so, yeah, we would really love some feedback on that. I am, of course, biased because I'm one of the authors along with Tim, and we have a number of people on the team who are contributing to this as well. Yeah, governance communications is like a really big, important piece of the organizational puzzle that is MakerDAO. And so, yeah, any feedback that can help us improve this proposal would be greatly appreciated. There's also a declaration of intent around Maker Protocol cover with Nexus Mutual. This is like basically getting insurance from Nexus Mutual. I haven't read through it too deeply, so I can't really comment on it. Definitely check it out. I think that they were on the Maker governance and risk meeting not too long ago to talk about this. Yeah, so check that out. And then lastly, there's a sub-proposal for modifying meta parameter adjustments. What that is I have no idea, so I have to click it and read it for you all. Proposes the removal of the DAI savings rate spread as a meta parameter. Oh yeah, because we used to vote on the DSR as a spread rather than directly for the rate itself. Yeah, this probably makes sense. See, it's just mental cleanup. I like it. All right, cool. So some updates from the Oracle's team. They're going to be getting out a bunch of collateral onboarding assessments for Oracles this week. They're finishing up on the Uniswap LP token Oracle's code. And then Marc Andre has officially joined the Oracle's domain team. So that's super exciting. For risk, we have the RenBTC risk assessment. It was published along with the risk parameters that were proposed. There's a plan to onboard TBTC and RenBTC by the end of the year, so we're going to have more wrapped BTC alternatives compared to now. There is a real-world asset group that will release a risk assessment template specifically for real-world asset, like frameworks and assets, because I know that there's a couple of frameworks emerging around real-world assets. Specifically thinking of like the Centrifuge Tinlake model versus Matthew Rabinowitz's Success Capital model, both of which deal with real-world assets, both of which have like a whole framework behind them that's important to understand. And then yeah, there's an evaluating dust parameters posted in the forum. If you're curious about how to vote on the dust parameter, reading through this post would be super helpful to you. Smart contracts updates, just a couple. There's a forum post for changes in flash loan protection. Contains discussion and information about the impending migration. So this is what we talked about during the first half of this call. And then there's the Liquidations 2.0 technical summary that came out just recently, so this is super exciting. Oh, I guess not just recently. Maybe it was updated? I wonder why they posted it here. Either way, that's up, so cool. Really quickly, state of the peg. The peg has been looking pretty standard compared to the last few months. It's been fluctuating below the recent price floor at around $1 and a penny. As for volume, over the last 7 days, there's been around 166 million DAI volume, and the volume-weighted average price places DAI at just below $1 and a penny, so $1 and 0.008, which is pretty cool. Yeah, for any current stats, if you'd like, Maker Burn actually has a really great breakdown feature. You could see all of the different balances here, so it's a bit easier than reading it straight up. But yeah, Tim nevertheless captures it here like a boss. Yeah, let's see if there's anything else that I can highlight that might be interesting to you all. ETH vaults hovering around 220%. Interesting. Yeah, at $320, ETH would liquidate 32 million DAI. Let's hope ETH does not crash to $320. A lot of people would not have a good day. Yeah, at 318, however, that would be 70 million DAI. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, cool, terrifying. Yeah. All right. So yeah, I guess let's see. Yeah, so moving past state of the peg, basically it's been pretty standard. Nothing exciting is happening there. Yeah, so as for community highlights, there's a number of different things happening. There's this Reddit thread on why I think MakerDAO is at an inflection point. It's a member of the community talking about just how much stuff we've been progressing through over the last years. There's a couple articles about us breaking 1 billion DAI. Yeah, just a bunch of kind of miscellaneous articles. Busting MakerDAO myths. 7 misconceptions about DAI. That's interesting. And I think that's actually like one of our blogs, right? Yeah. Cool. Yeah, there's a lot of reading. There's a lot of stuff to catch up on. Just some stuff. Maker Forum deep dive. Small vaults, liquidations, and incentives. This relates to the dust parameter conversation we've been having. There's also a new collateral onboarding handbook that was released. So I actually don't want to miss this. This is a really, really big deal. This thing is awesome. It's collateral.makerdao.com. And if you are a person who's interested in onboarding collateral, you can go through this site and it has everything. So all of the information you might need about the process, about who's involved with the process, about the length of the process, etc., etc. It's all found here. So great work to Charles. Great work to everybody who's on the team that produced this. So really cool stuff. All right. A perspective of an off-chain senior position lender. This is a forum thread about basically Matthew's perspective on using MakerDAO as a credit facility to leverage net lease commercial real estate deals. So this is what Success Capital is working to do, and they actually have a number of things already happening for them. So they passed MIP 21 and a declaration of intent for their real-world asset like line of credit. And so yeah, it's a ton of stuff. So definitely check it out if you're interested. All right, let's see here. Oh, this is not the relay. Here's the relay. Yeah, here's another really great forum thread. There's a number of awesome forum threads happening almost always. But this one is about the PSM, the DAI Flashmint module, MKR tokenomics, and MakerDAO security. There's an interesting discussion happening around that and how all of these play off of each other. Definitely worth reading. And then yeah, Planet X also posted a forum thread about governance, the MKR lifestyle. I really like the this piece, this image that he put here, because it outlines exactly the problem with maker governance, which is that there's no profit and there's high mental effort for using your MKR for governance. Whereas if you want to like make your MKR available for flash loans, you could easily just throw it in and earn a percentage. You can market make with it. You could trade with it. And so yeah, how do we get maker governance more attractive is kind of his point. And so yeah, jotted down some thoughts about this, and so it also is going into it's related to the conversation around voting incentives for Maker. So yeah, there's just a lot of stuff floating around there. Tweet of the week. We hit 1 billion DAI. Yeah, gonna beat that drum until it's dead. And yeah, there's some great videos here. I'm not gonna read through every single one of them. I'll let you all kind of check it out yourselves. And so yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing. Yeah, I'm gonna end it maybe a few minutes early. Yeah, the main point of this call was that first part with Chris Mooney and the liquidation. The governance chief upgrade. And so yeah, I hope that was useful information. And so I'm gonna let you guys go and let myself go. See you all in a couple of Tuesdays, or maybe next Tuesday. We'll see. All right, cheers.